The Jeep rumbled down the old highway, swallowed by thick fog as the tires kicked up loose gravel. Ben, sitting behind the wheel, grinned like he was driving them into some great adventure. In the passenger seat, Mia kept her arms crossed, her nerves showing. In the back, Tyler scrolled on his phone, the screen glowing in the darkness. "Okay, seriously," Mia huffed, "explain to me again why we're doing this." Ben shot her a mischievous glance. "Because this is our last summer together, and we need to make it count. What's more epic than spending the night in Ravenwood? More epic? Not getting cursed, maybe." Tyler muttered from the back. "This place is called the creepiest town in America, for a reason, you know." "Exactly," Ben said. "It's all hype. Urban legends and spooky stories to freak out tourists. Nothing's real." Mia shook her head. "Ben, people don't even talk about this place. It's not on Google Maps. And you think that's just hype?" Ben shrugged, undeterred. "Look, if you guys want to back out, I'll drop you off at home. But come on, we're here for the thrill, right? Just one night. We make it through, and we'll have the best story to tell for years." Mia sighed. Tyler smirked. They both knew there was no way Ben would let this go. "Fine," Mia grumbled. "But if anything weird happens, I swear, you'll say I told you so." Tyler cut in, leaning between the front seats with a grin. "You've already said that, like, 5 times. Mia rolled her eyes, but even Tyler's sarcasm couldn't shake the unease creeping through her. Something about this felt wrong. The deeper they drove into the woods, the more the air thickened with silence, no birds, no bugs, nothing. It was like the forest held its breath. As the Jeep rounded the final bend, the headlights illuminated a rusty, lopsided sign, "Welcome to Ravenwood." Below the faded letters, someone had scrawled in red paint, "Turn back." Mia felt a chill snake down her spine. "Ben. Maybe we should." "Too late," Ben said with a grin, his foot pressing down on the gas. "We're in." They rolled through the narrow streets of Ravenwood, passing houses that looked untouched but abandoned. No broken windows. No graffiti. Just a strange, eerie stillness, as if the people had disappeared all at once, leaving everything behind. The streetlights flickered like dying fireflies, casting pale halos of light over empty sidewalks. "See," Ben said, gesturing at the houses. "Just a ghost town. Nothing creepy about it." Tyler frowned, staring at the darkened windows. "Yeah. Then why does it feel like someone's watching us?" Mia shivered. The town felt wrong. Not just empty, vacant, like the kind of emptiness you feel in a dream where everything seems real but just a little off. They pulled up in front of the Ravenwood Hotel, a towering, ivy-covered relic from a century ago. The wooden sign above the entrance creaked in the breeze, and the windows, though dusty, reflected nothing but shadows. "You've got to be kidding me," Mia whispered, her stomach knotting. "You really want to sleep here?" "Come on," Ben said, grabbing a flashlight. "It's just for a few hours. What's the worst that could happen?" Tyler raised an eyebrow. Famous last words. Ben ignored him, hopping out of the Jeep and slamming the door behind him. "Let's go, wimps. I bet the inside is even cooler." Mia hesitated, her instinct screaming at her to turn around and leave. But Tyler gave her a nudge. "Might as well. If we survive, we'll never have to listen to Ben talk about this again." "That's not much of a comfort," Mia muttered, but she followed anyway. The front door of the hotel was unlocked, of course it was. Places like this always are. Ben pushed it open with a loud creak, and the smell of damp wood and mold hit them immediately. Inside, The lobby was frozen in time. A grand staircase led to the upper floors, and a dusty chandelier hung above their heads, swaying slightly, though there was no wind. A decaying front desk stood at the far end of the room, with an old-fashioned bell sitting on the counter. Ben's eyes lit up. "You know I have to ring it." Mia grabbed his arm. "Ben, don't. I mean it." But it was too late. Ding. The sound echoed through the empty halls, deeper and louder than it should have, as if the walls swallowed it and carried it somewhere far beyond the hotel. The three friends stood in stunned silence, waiting. Nothing. Tyler let out a shaky laugh. "See?" Nothing to, thud. The sound came from upstairs, like a door slamming shut. Mia's heart skipped a beat. "Did you hear that?" Ben's grin faltered, but he tried to play it off. "Probably just the wind." Tyler shook his head. "There's no wind, man." Suddenly, the overhead lights flickered, buzzing like angry hornets. For a split second, the room was bathed in a sickly yellow glow, and that's when they saw it. At the top of the staircase, just barely visible in the dim light, stood a shadowy figure. It was too still to be human. Its head tilted ever so slightly, as if it had been watching them all along. And then the lights went out completely. Mia gasped. "Ben. What the hell is that?" Ben's flashlight clicked on with a shaky hand, the beam slicing through the darkness. But the staircase was empty again, just shadows and dust. "Okay," Tyler whispered. "This isn't funny anymore. We need to leave." But as they turned toward the door, they heard it, the unmistakable sound of footsteps, slow, deliberate, and coming from above. And this time, they weren't alone. The footsteps echoed from above, steady and deliberate. Tyler's heart pounded in his chest, and he instinctively grabbed Mia's arm. "Ben," Mia hissed, "this isn't a game anymore. We have to go." Ben, gripping his flashlight, looked up at the staircase where the shadow had been just moments ago. The air felt thicker, pressing down on them like an invisible weight. "It's nothing," Ben muttered, though the crack in his voice betrayed him. "Probably just an animal or something." "Animals don't slam doors, Ben." Tyler whispered harshly, glancing nervously toward the lobby door. Mia's flashlight beam wavered as her hand trembled. "We need to get out of here. Now." Just as they turned to leave, the front door slammed shut, the sound reverberating through the hotel like a thunderclap. Mia shrieked, and Tyler yanked on the door handle, but it wouldn't budge. It was locked from the inside. "What the hell?" Tyler stammered, pulling harder, panic rising in his voice. Ben tried to stay calm, but even he could feel it. Something was off about this place, and it was getting worse. He aimed his flashlight back at the staircase, expecting to see nothing. But then he froze. At the top of the stairs, the shadow was back. Only this time, it was moving. The figure drifted down the steps, slow and deliberate, as if savoring each step. There was no sound, just the suffocating silence that wrapped around them like a shroud. Mia gasped, gripping Ben's arm. "Ben, please, we need to." Before she could finish, the figure vanished, dissolving into the shadows as if it had never been there. "Did you see that?" Tyler whispered, eyes wide with fear. "Tell me you saw that." Ben swallowed hard. Yeah, I saw it." Suddenly, a loud creak echoed through the lobby, as if something heavy had just shifted above them. They all looked up, their flashlights bouncing nervously off the cracked ceiling. Then they heard it, a voice, faint and distant, like a whisper carried on the wind. "Help me." Mia's blood ran cold. Did that sound like a kid to you?" "Nope," Tyler whispered, his hands visibly shaking. I don't care what it sounded like, I'm not sticking around to find out. Ben squared his shoulders, though his heart hammered against his ribs. Look, maybe it's just a speaker or something. Someone messing with us. Mia shot him a furious glare. Ben, stop pretending everything is fine. There's something wrong here. We need to leave. Clang. A deafening noise shattered the silence as the hotel bell on the front desk rang violently, on its own. The three friends jumped, their flashlights scattering across the room in a chaotic dance of light. Ben spun around, gripping the flashlight tighter. Okay, that was weird, he admitted, his cocky facade finally cracking. You think? Tyler shouted, frantically tugging at the locked door again. We need to get out. This place is messed up, man. As they backed toward the lobby entrance, trying to come up with a plan, a cold breeze swept through the room. But it wasn't just cold, it was icy, and it carried a smell like old flowers, damp wood, and something rotten. Mia pressed her hand over her mouth, suppressing a gag. Do you smell that? Ben nodded, his expression grim. Yeah. It smells like, run. The whisper was so close it was as if someone had leaned right into Mia's ear. She gasped and stumbled backward, her flashlight flickering wildly. Tyler grabbed her arm, steadying her as her breath hitched. Ben, Tyler whispered urgently. We need to go. Now. Ben nodded, finally abandoning the idea of staying the night. Okay, let's find another way out. They spun around, flashlights aimed at the dim corridor leading deeper into the hotel. It wasn't a great plan, but staying in the lobby, where the bell rang by itself and shadowy figures watched from the staircase, felt worse. They moved cautiously through the corridor, every creak of the floorboards making them flinch. The hallway stretched farther than seemed possible, twisting unnaturally into the dark. Doors lined the walls, some slightly ajar, others sealed shut, and the wallpaper, once grand, now peeled like decaying skin. Do you think there's a back exit? Mia whispered, trying not to let her voice shake. There's gotta be, Ben said, but even he didn't sound so sure anymore. As they crept through the hallway, Mia swore she could hear something, soft footsteps shuffling just out of sight. Every time she turned around, there was nothing behind them, only shadows pooling in the corners. Tyler, Mia whispered, do you hear that? Tyler's flashlight flickered, the light dimming for just a second. I hear it. I just don't want to believe it. Then they reached the end of the hallway, and found a door. Ben let out a breath of relief. See? We're good. This has to lead outside. He twisted the handle, but it didn't move. He twisted harder, jamming his shoulder against the door, but it wouldn't budge. No, no, no. Ben muttered, rattling the handle in frustration. Come on. Ben, Mia whispered, her voice trembling. Look behind you. He turned slowly. Down the hallway they had just come from, a figure stood in the dark. It was the same shadowy presence from before, only now. It was closer. And it wasn't alone. Dozens of shapes began to emerge from the walls, slithering from doorways, crawling across the ceiling, shadowy figures that twisted and writhed like they were made of smoke and nightmares. The friends backed up against the door, panic taking hold. Tyler's voice cracked. We're not getting out of here, are we? Ben banged on the door, desperately trying to force it open. Don't say that. We just need. Suddenly, Mia's flashlight blinked out, plunging them into total darkness. And in that pitch black, they heard the whisper again, soft, taunting, and everywhere at once. Stay with us. In the darkness, the whispers grew louder, wrapping around them like tendrils of icy breath. Mia's heart pounded so hard she thought it might burst out of her chest. She fumbled with her flashlight, smacking it against her palm until it flickered back on. The pale beam of light cut through the blackness, just enough for her to see the shadows creeping closer. They twisted unnaturally, their limbs long and distorted, as if they had forgotten how to move like humans. Some crawled on the walls, others shuffled across the floor, their hollow faces tilted toward the group with silent intent. Ben slammed his shoulder into the door again and again, desperate to break it down. Come on, he yelled, but the door refused to budge. Mia's breathing became ragged. Ben, it's not working. We have to move, now. Tyler tugged at her arm, pulling her away from the door. This way, he shouted, dragging her toward a side corridor. We need to find another way out. Ben followed close behind, the beam of his flashlight bouncing wildly as they ran through the twisting hallway. Behind them, the shadows slithered forward, silent and relentless, as if the walls themselves were chasing them. They burst through another door and found themselves in what must have been the hotel dining room, though the long, dusty tables were set with plates and silverware, as if waiting for guests who would never arrive. Cobwebs stretched across chairs and chandeliers, and the stale air smelled faintly of mildew and rot. But what caught Mia's eye, and made her blood run cold, was a portrait hanging crookedly on the far wall. It showed 3 children, their faces pale and expressionless, standing stiffly in front of the very same hotel they were trapped in. The eyes of the children seemed to follow them, lifeless and unblinking, as if they had been watching for a long, long time. Why the hell would they leave this place like this? Tyler whispered, backing away from the portrait. They didn't leave, Mia whispered back, dread coiling in her gut. They never left. A sudden bang echoed from the corridor they'd come from, followed by the unmistakable sound of footsteps running toward them. Ben! Mia cried, clutching his arm. They're coming. Without a word, Ben sprinted across the room, heading toward a door that looked like it might lead to the kitchen. Tyler and Mia followed, their shoes scuffing across the dusty floor. The door groaned as Ben shoved it open, and they tumbled into the hotel's dark, narrow kitchen. Inside, rusted stoves and counters lined the walls. A long butcher's block stretched across the middle of the room, and the dull glint of old knives reflected the beams from their flashlights. Ben slammed the door shut behind them and twisted the lock. This should buy us some time, he muttered, breathing heavily. Tyler leaned against the wall, clutching his knees. Some time for what? We're trapped. There's no way out of here. Mia scanned the room with her flashlight, her mind racing. There has to be. Maybe there's a back exit, or, her light caught something, a trapdoor in the far corner of the room, partially hidden beneath a tattered rug. Over there, she shouted, rushing toward it. Help me with this. Ben and Tyler scrambled over, and together they yanked the heavy rug away, revealing the rotting wood of the trapdoor. Ben wedged his fingers beneath the edges and pried it open with a loud creak, revealing a narrow staircase that plunged into pitch-black darkness. Are you kidding me? Tyler groaned, peering into the void below. We have to go down there. Ben shot him a look. You want to stay up here and see what happens? Without waiting for a response, Mia grabbed Tyler's arm and dragged him toward the staircase. Come on, she hissed. It's this or nothing. They descended into the darkness, the wooden stairs groaning under their weight. The air below was thick and damp, carrying a metallic scent that stuck to their throats. Their flashlights revealed a narrow, stone-walled passageway leading deeper underground. Where do you think this goes? Tyler whispered, his voice bouncing eerily off the stone walls. Mia shook her head. I don't know. But it's better than staying up there. As they crept further into the passage, the whispers returned, faint and far away at first, but growing louder with every step. Stay. Stay with us. Ben shivered, though the air wasn't cold. I hate this place. Suddenly, the tunnel widened, opening into a large underground chamber. Their flashlights flickered across old furniture, chairs, tables, even a bed frame, as if someone had been living down here. What the hell is this? Tyler whispered, stepping carefully into the room. Mia's light landed on a mirror hanging crookedly on the far wall. The glass was cracked and stained, but something about it drew her in, something that felt wrong. She stepped closer, raising her flashlight. For a moment, the reflection showed only herself, her pale face staring back at her in the gloom. And then, behind her reflection, a shadow moved. "Mia, get back!" Tyler shouted, yanking her away just as the shadow inside the mirror lunged toward the glass. The surface rippled like water, and a long, skeletal hand pressed against it from the inside, leaving dark smudges on the glass. Mia stumbled back, her heart racing. What the hell was that? Ben shook his head, shining his flashlight nervously around the chamber. "I don't know. But I think this place was meant to keep things trapped." "Great," Tyler muttered. "And now we're in here with them." Before anyone could respond, a low rumble echoed through the chamber, like stone grinding against stone. The trapdoor they'd come through slammed shut above them, sealing them in. The whispers grew louder, pressing in on all sides. "You belong to us now." Mia backed against the wall, her pulse racing. "We have to find another way out." Ben nodded, shining his flashlight toward a narrow opening on the other side of the room. "This way." With no other option, they ran toward the opening, their flashlights bobbing wildly as the shadows closed in behind them. The narrow passage twisted deeper underground, the walls closing in like the throat of a beast. Their flashlights flickered as if struggling against the oppressive darkness, casting jittery shadows that danced in unsettling patterns along the stone walls. Ben led the way, his breath ragged and fast. Mia kept glancing over her shoulder, convinced she could hear the soft shuffling of footsteps right behind them, though nothing was ever there when she turned around. Tyler, pale and dripping with sweat, whispered under his breath, "This isn't real. It can't be real." "It feels real enough," Mia muttered, her voice shaky. "Just keep moving." Ben hissed, clutching his flashlight like a lifeline. His cocky confidence had completely evaporated, replaced by raw fear. They stumbled through the tunnel, their shoes scraping against stone and dirt. At every turn, they expected to run into a dead end, or worse, one of the shadows. The whispers chased them, growing louder and more insistent with every step. "Stay. Stay with us forever." The passage seemed to stretch endlessly, each corner leading to another twisting tunnel. The walls were etched with strange symbols, clawed into the stone by hands long gone. Some were too ancient to decipher, others looked like warnings, eyes, chains, and jagged spirals that seemed to turn inward, pulling the mind deeper into confusion. Ben gritted his teeth. "Why is this tunnel so long? We should have hit a wall or something by now." Mia's voice wavered. "What if? What if it doesn't end? What if it just keeps going?" Tyler shook his head, panic bubbling to the surface. "No, no, there has to be a way out. There's always a way out." They turned another corner, and stopped dead in their tracks. A brick wall loomed ahead, blocking the passage completely. It was old, covered in moss and cracks, but solid. No doors. No openings. No way out. "Shit." Ben swore, slamming his fist against the cold stone. "This can't be it. There has to be another way." Mia's flashlight flickered again, the bulb sputtering like it was about to die. "Ben, we can't stay here. We need to go back." "And go where?" Tyler snapped. "Back into that thing's arms." The whispers pressed closer, curling around them like cold fingers. Mia tightened her grip on the flashlight, panic clawing at her insides. We can't just stand here. We have to move. Thud. A sound echoed through the passage, a heavy, deliberate thump. It came from behind the brick wall. Something on the other side was moving, pushing against the stones, trying to get out. Mia stumbled back, her breath hitching in her throat. Did you hear that? Ben took a step closer, his flashlight trembling in his hand. What the hell is on the other side? Another thud. The wall shuddered, small cracks appearing in the mortar. Something was clawing, scraping at the bricks, and with every blow, the stones crumbled a little more. We need to go. Tyler hissed, pulling on Ben's sleeve. We can't stay here. Ben, his heart hammering, nodded reluctantly. They spun around and sprinted back the way they came, plunging into the endless dark once more. The air seemed thicker as they ran, suffocating with each breath. It was as if the walls of the tunnel were alive, squeezing tighter, forcing them deeper into the labyrinth. The whispers followed, closer now, and they carried a sinister promise: no escape. You're ours now. Tyler tripped over a loose stone, falling hard on his knees. Ah, damn it, he cried, scrambling to his feet as Mia pulled him up. Come on. Mia urged, her voice sharp with fear. But just as they picked up speed, the ground beneath them shifted. A low rumble echoed through the tunnel as the stones shifted beneath their feet. And then the floor gave way. The three of them tumbled into a dark abyss, their flashlights spinning wildly as they fell. Ben hit the ground first, gasping as the wind was knocked from his lungs. Mia landed beside him with a cry, and Tyler crashed down moments later, clutching his arm in pain. Everyone okay? Ben groaned, forcing himself to sit up despite the ache in his ribs. Mia coughed, her flashlight miraculously still intact. Yeah. I think so. Tyler cradled his arm, wincing. I'll live. They found themselves in a cavern, larger than the tunnels above. The air was colder here, and the walls glistened with damp moss. At the far end of the cavern stood a mirror, cracked and ancient, just like the one they had seen earlier in the dining room. But this one was much larger, tall enough to reflect the entire room in its jagged surface. Ben shined his flashlight on it, unease prickling at the back of his neck. What is with all these mirrors? Mia took a cautious step toward it, her breath fogging up the cold glass. It's like it's waiting for us. Suddenly, the reflection shifted. In the mirror, they could see themselves standing in the cavern, but behind them stood the shadowy figures, their empty faces twisted into something like a smile. Mia gasped. They're behind us. They spun around, but the cavern was empty. No figures. Just silence. Ben clenched his fists, his flashlight beam unsteady. I hate this place. Then, without warning, the figures in the mirror began to move, reaching out, pressing their hands against the inside of the glass, as if trying to break through. The mirror cracked, the jagged lines spreading like veins across its surface. With each crack, the figures pushed harder, their smiles widening into something inhuman. Mia grabbed Ben's arm. We need to get out of here. There's no way out. Tyler shouted, panic in his voice. And then the mirror shattered. The mirror exploded outward, shards of glass scattering across the cavern like glittering knives. Mia, Ben, and Tyler shielded their faces as the shards clinked against the stone walls. But something far worse came with the shattered glass, the shadows. The figures poured from the broken mirror, crawling and slithering across the cavern floor. Their limbs twisted unnaturally, joints bending the wrong way. Some dragged themselves toward the trio on all fours, their blank faces flickering in and out of focus like a bad dream. Others hovered, gliding silently through the air, their mouths stretching into impossible grins. "Run!" Mia screamed. Ben yanked Tyler to his feet, and the three of them bolted toward the only visible tunnel at the far side of the cavern. The shadows followed, relentless and silent, their inky forms stretching across the floor and walls like spilled tar. "This can't be happening," Tyler gasped, stumbling as he ran. "It's happening," Ben shouted over his shoulder. "Keep moving." They sprinted through the tunnel, hearts pounding, flashlights flickering as the darkness pressed in on all sides. But the faster they ran, the more the tunnel seemed to twist and turn, leading them in circles. "Why is this place never ending?" Mia cried, panic bubbling up inside her. Ben's flashlight dimmed again, and for a brief second, everything went dark. And in that instant, something cold brushed against Mia's arm. She gasped, twisting away, but nothing was there, just more of the same endless stone walls. The shadows were toying with them. "We're going in circles," Tyler shouted. "We're not getting out." "No, we can," Mia yelled back, though her voice was filled with doubt. "We just need to." A distant laugh echoed down the tunnel, soft and eerie, like a child's giggle that didn't belong in the world of the living. The sound sent ice down their spines. Ben stopped suddenly, panting. "Wait. We need to stop and think. This thing. It's messing with us. We can't just keep running." Mia grabbed his arm, her eyes wild. "If we stop, we're dead." Ben shook his head. "No, listen. These things. They're trapping us. It's like they don't want us to leave. But there has to be a way out." Tyler leaned against the wall, trying to catch his breath. "What if there isn't? What if we were never supposed to leave?" Mia felt a surge of dread, but she refused to give in. "No. There's always a way out. There has to be." Then, something strange happened. The walls of the tunnel began to shift, slowly at first, then faster, as if the stone was melting and reforming. The tunnel twisted and rearranged itself right before their eyes, turning into a maze with no beginning and no end. "We need to move," Ben shouted, pulling Mia and Tyler along with him as the walls closed in around them. They stumbled into another chamber, smaller than the last, and came to a sudden halt. In the middle of the room was another mirror, larger than the first, completely intact, with no cracks or flaws. The surface shimmered like black water, reflecting nothing but darkness. Ben stared at it in disbelief. "Another mirror? Are you kidding me?" Tyler backed away from it, shaking his head. "No way. I'm not going near that thing. It's a trap." Mia, however, felt something tugging at her, a strange pull, like the mirror was calling to her. What if? What if the way out is through the mirror? Ben looked at her like she was crazy. "You can't be serious. After what just came out of the last one." But Mia stepped closer, her flashlight flickering as the mirror's surface began to ripple. "Maybe it's not about escaping the hotel. Maybe. Maybe we have to go through." Tyler grabbed her arm. "Mia, no. We don't even know what's on the other side." "We know what's behind us," she snapped, glancing toward the darkened tunnel where the shadows were closing in. "Do you want to stay here forever?" Ben hesitated for only a second, then clenched his jaw. "Screw it. I'm going through." Before anyone could stop him, he reached out and touched the mirror's surface. The glass rippled like water, and Ben's hand sank through. His eyes widened. "It's working." Suddenly, something grabbed him from the other side. Ben's face twisted in terror as he tried to pull his arm back, but the shadows inside the mirror yanked harder, dragging him in. "Ben!" Mia screamed, grabbing his other arm. Hold on. Tyler rushed forward, helping Mia pull Ben back from the mirror's grasp. But the shadows inside were too strong, their cold, skeletal hands wrapping around Ben like chains. I can't. Ben gasped, panic flooding his voice. They're pulling me in. The surface of the mirror shimmered again, revealing their own reflections, but in the reflection, all three of them were already inside the mirror, trapped forever. Their faces were blank, their eyes lifeless. No. Mia cried, yanking on Ben with all her strength. But with one final, violent tug, Ben was pulled through the mirror, disappearing into the dark. Ben! Mia screamed, pounding on the glass, but it was solid again, no ripples, no way through. He was gone. Tyler stared at the mirror in shock, his whole body trembling. He's gone. Mia shook her head frantically. No. No, we can't leave him. We have to. Before she could finish, the shadows arrived. They slithered into the chamber, blocking every exit. Tyler grabbed Mia's hand. We have to go. Now. They turned to run, but the mirror flickered once more. And in the glass, they saw Ben's reflection. He stood inside the mirror, staring back at them, but he wasn't Ben anymore. His face was twisted into an eerie smile, and his eyes were empty. Stay with me. Ben's voice whispered, muffled through the glass. Mia backed away, horrified. That's not him. The shadows surged forward. Tyler and Mia had no choice, they ran toward the only tunnel left open, sprinting into the darkness as the whispers chased them. You can never leave. And just like that, Ravenwood claimed another soul. The shadows closed in. The maze twisted once more. And far, far away, in a mirror deep within the hotel, Ben's reflection smiled, waiting for his friends to return.